Well, again, good afternoon, and thanks for joining our Facebook Live session this afternoon. If you tuned in last week, either live or watched it on Facebook afterwards, we talked about some David G. and some heart math topics dealing with resilience and coherence, and walked out with a tool to be able to use that is 16 seconds to clarity or sitting in stillness and silence. And want to go just a little bit deeper today in the few minutes that we have and talk about heart math just a little bit more. And it's important to know that heart math is one of the leading resilience and coherence research groups in the world today. They are the cutting edge folks in this. And when we're done today, or Jocelyn, if you're on, anytime you want to throw those links in, or I can do it when we're done, either way is fine. We're going to give you a link. HeartMath has graciously offered to provide one of their 90-minute webinars to us for free. So there'll be a link to that and a code to put in to get that for free. And then we're also going to offer you a link to one of their publications called The Science of the Heart. An excellent book, very easily digestible to be able to take this further if you are interested in doing that. So one of the things I want to start off with this morning is somebody mentioned this to us, and I think this is a great point. In what we're facing today and the challenges that we're seeing, this idea of building our coherence and resilience, it's not just a mental or emotional dynamic that we're working to build here. As Stephen Covey wrote in his book, 7 Habits, this is about the whole person. It's about our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And so what do we mean by this when it comes to physical? It's about flexibility in all 4 dimensions. How do we maintain that physical flexibility? I think we get that physically, especially as we age. We're not as flexible as we used to be. But being flexible is vitally important. It builds our endurance, it builds our strength. Well, what about the mental flexibility? In this culturally ADHD world that we live in today, it's really tough sometimes to maintain that mental flexibility. In our attention span, everything in our world today has become factoids. If you don't know the answer, you can Google it in 2 seconds. You have the answer, and our attention span is shrinking a little bit on us. But it also gives us the ability to focus on things that are vitally important and include multiple points of view instead of just being at the polar opposite ends of things. It lets us see multiple sides. And the emotional side, this emotional flexibility, our emotions can be such a drain to us, but they can also be such a renewing and healthy component when we are able to tap into those healthy, positive emotions. And then also the spiritual flexibility. And I love the way David G. describes this to us. He talked about how he used to get pushback on focused breathing processes, on meditation all the time from people that were involved in organized religion. And look, if the spiritual flexibility is organized religion for you, more power to you. But David G. said, prayer is about talking to God, and meditation is about listening to God. And so it's being able to have that flexibility where I have to commit to my values, but I can also can understand and appreciate others' points of view too. And I think that's an important thing for us to keep in mind, is that with what HeartMath is teaching us, what David G. gave us, and we talked a lot about last week, it's about all of those things. And so if you remember last week, we talked about coherence, and that's about getting in this optimal state so that our body, our physiological systems are aligned and in sync and all pulling in the direction in which they're intended to do. But with the stress and things that we're feeling today, that can be a real challenge. And when we can get into that coherent place where those healthy neurochemicals are coming into our system, then we start to build our resilience. And remember, we want to take resilience just a little bit deeper. We want not just the fact that we're going to bounce back from something, but one, we're going to prepare for it, because stuff is happening today. And we have to to be willing to recognize that and understand it. I love one of my favorite quotes is from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. If you're familiar with her, she's the researcher that gave us the stages of grief. And she said, you know what? Beautiful people don't just happen. They have to know loss and suffering, meaning they got to go through stuff, but they're able to find their way out of the depths. And we're being challenged at this point to think about this and find our way out of some of these depths that we're finding. So yeah, it's to prepare for, it's to recover from, but then also adapt in the moment. And really the moment is one of the pieces that we're going to focus on today, because yesterday we talked about last week we talked about the ritualization. First thing in the morning, in the evening, sitting in stillness and silence, and building that practice. Well, today we're going to talk about this heart-focused breathing and an idea of quick coherence. And Josh, thanks for posting those in the comments there for us. Appreciate that. Or Becky, whoever did that. Appreciate it very much. So one of the things that HeartMath is teaching us is that this, what we call the heart-brain communication. The heart is so much more complex than we ever really thought it was. And it's so complex that many scientists today are calling it the heart brain. And the heart sends far more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. And when we think about the areas of the brain that are being affected by that, it involves strategic thinking, reaction time, self-regulation, all things that can be a challenge today. And in policing, we know that those are things about officer safety. It's about keeping us safe. But that really affects all of us in the challenging times that we find ourselves in today. So when we talk about this idea of the specific breathing processes, that's an important piece to understand that we're going to affect the brain. And the way HeartMath describes this, they call it the heart variability rate. And it's not about pulse. You can be out exercising and have a high heart rate, but have very healthy heart rate variability. And the same thing, you can be sitting and just relaxing and have a very unhealthy heart variability rate. And really what that heart rate variability is about the activity that's going on between the beats and making sure that it is healthy. And HeartMath tells us that the heart variability rate, it's at our best naturally when we're young. And so me being 58, those of you that might be listening that are in your 20s or 30s or 40s, you naturally have a healthier heart variability rate than I do. Doesn't mean that it is healthier, because we can work at it and we can keep it healthy. A below normal heart variability rate is a strong indicator of future health problems. And HeartMath tells us that it's all-cause mortality. Anything that can cause death earlier than it might be natural can be linked to that, whether it's in a car accident because we're not paying attention, we're not focused, we're not in the moment, or cancers or stroke or heart issue can all be linked back to this below normal heart rate variability. So what is this idea of heart-focused breathing? And so through the science, that HeartMath is able to show us that when we put our attention in a certain specific location in our body, that we can physiologically affect that. They did some studies where they put temperature sensors on people's hands and had them think about their hands, and they were actually able to change the temperatures on our hands. Well, that's science doing that, but we've all experienced where we've cut ourselves or scraped our knee or something. We didn't even realize we did it until we looked down and saw the blood, and then it really hurt. Well, we put our attention there, and so we affected that part of it. Well, heart-focused breathing is a powerful and effective self-regulation tool. Whether we're preparing for, recovering from, or adapting in the moment, it's a powerful self-regulation tool. And it's the very first step in shifting to a more coherent state. We're alert, we're calm, but we're in the moment. Okay, and it can help us maintain composure in challenging situations. And let's be realistic. There's a lot of challenging stuff that's going on. And keep in mind, it's not just the mental or the emotional, but this is the physical side of this too. And so heart-focused breathing is somewhat very simplistic. But if we do it and we do it well, it can have great impact. And this is how we adapt in the moment. And so what we do is we put our attention in the area of our heart. Now look, we know we don't breathe in and out of our heart, but we're putting our attention there because remember, the heart is sending far more information to the brain than the brain sending it to our heart. So we're going to put our attention there. And we're just going to breathe a little bit slower and a little bit deeper than we normally would into the count of 5 and out to the count of 5. And into the count of 5 and out to the count of 5. That's the simplistic part of that. And so while I'm talking about the next topic or two here, what I want you to do is I want you to do some heart-focused breathing. I just want you to breathe a little bit slower and a little bit deeper while putting your attention on the area of your heart while still listening and watching. You can do all of these things at the very same time. Okay? And so, one of the things that really affects our ability to be coherent is emotions. And whether we can tap in to these healthy emotions that we have, things like appreciation. And right now, for some of us, that's tough to find our ability to be appreciative for things when we may be locked down in our houses, or if loved ones are ill with the virus or something like that. It can be really tough, especially, maybe the kids are at home now and they haven't been, and all of those challenges that we're facing. But can we be appreciative for what we do have in the moment? Can we show gratitude, kindness, love, compassion, tolerance even in those moments? Can we find those emotions? Because they're extremely important to us. And so then we can add this quick coherence technique. So as you're doing this heart-focused breathing, we're breathing just a little bit slower and a little bit deeper than we normally would, slowly counting to 5 in and slowly counting to 5 out. And now just add an emotional thought to it. Think about something that you are appreciative for, something that you are grateful for. Think of somebody that you love, or a place that you love to go and visit, whether it's the mountains or the ocean or wherever that might be for you. Put your attention there, okay? And make a sincere attempt to find this regenerative feeling of appreciation for whatever that emotion might be. And so just keep breathing a little bit slower and a little bit deeper than you normally would. So the process, like I said, in some ways is pretty simple. We're going to heart focus breathe, where we put our attention on our heart, in for 5, out for 5, and we're going to find that positive emotion. Okay. And that you can relax now. And so during that just few minutes that we were doing that, we were introducing those healthy neurochemicals, DHEA, oxytocin, dopamine, that neurochemical cocktail that comes into our brain that puts us helps us build our coherence and build that resilience that can be so important to us in all 4 dimensions of our life. So what are the strategies now for building and sustaining this resilience? 1, you have to prep. So remember last week we talked about doing 2 minutes of focused breathing, 16 seconds, and just repeat that 16 seconds for 2 minutes. And then during the day, when you have an opportunity, do some heart-focused breathing, do some quick coherence. We had one participant that made a commitment to us for the next 3 weeks that he was going to, every time he walked through a doorway, he was going to do a round of heart-focused breathing. Told us later, that was really challenging at first, but then he got to the point where he wasn't even thinking about it. So we're going to prep, shift, and reset, and then we're going to sustain throughout the day by finding that practice at the end of the day where we take the stillness and silence, for a couple of minutes again, hopefully building to 5, 10, 15 minutes a couple of times a day, and then doing some heart-focused breathing just all day long whenever we have that opportunity. Have to go and work with the kids and do some schooling, to take 30 seconds and do heart-focused breathing before we go and do that. Well, I want to say thank you all for joining me this afternoon for this quick little tidbit. I hope you found it useful. Jocelyn did put, or Becky, I'm not sure which one did it, put the info for the Science of the Heart and for that 90-minute heart math webinar that they offered us. You can go a little bit deeper into some of the things that we talked about. So thank you all very much. Hopefully we'll get to do this next week, where I'm going to bring and talk about some more of the emotions. Resilience and hope are vitally important. And let's talk about the idea of where we begin to find hope in these challenging times. So thank you guys. Love you all. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.